Welcome to the Uniformer News Roundtable, where industry insiders from the Network Association of Uniform Manufacturers and Distributors break down the latest headlines, trends, and stories shaping the world of uniforms and workwear.
Hello, welcome to the Uniformer. I'm Rick Levine, Executive Director of the NAUMD, and we have our news roundup episode today. And so I am here with our two lovely columnists. And why don't you introduce yourselves, Eileen?
So I am Eileen Out. I am from the Netherlands. I am a writer and speaker about workwear, and I also write a weekly column for The Pulse.
Yeah, Leslie?
Hello, I'm Leslie McArdle. I also write a weekly column for The Pulse, as well as I am working currently in the uniform industry for a very long time. And currently I'm at a company called Fabian Couture Group in merchandising and production.
Excellent. And so the format of this is we each brought two news items or two topics, and we haven't told each other what they are. So we're going to react in real time to what's happening in the uniform, image apparel, workwear world. Aileen, what's your first one you got for us today?
So I saw something interesting. I think it's now a week ago. And that is the fact that maybe you have seen it, it hit the news, that Air Cambodia, the airline industry, is having a uniform for many years now, but they changed their flights. They had an extra destination, which is close to Taiwan. And now Air Taiwan, I have to say Thai Airways,
Okay.
they said that they copied their uniforms.
Oh,
Yeah.
Scandal.
And that was very interesting because Thai Airways is famous for, let's say, their cultural uniform with a long, slim skirt with a lot of purple and, let's say, pink and golden details. And it's very beautiful, it's very traditional, but also for that area in the world, a very common uniform. And now they say, yeah, you copied us. But they're wearing this uniform for a long time. And that also made me think. Air Cambodia, of course, said, well, it's not a copy. We were inspired by our own culture, and we also have the legal rights for this uniform. So, but that also made me think, like in that part of the world, that is a common uniform. But what you see in this part of the world is a lot of, let's say, especially in the airline industry, red uniforms, red suits, and dark blue suits.
mm.
So it's very interesting. When is a uniform a copy?
Mm.
When you talk about when is it a real copy? Because you see so many,
Yeah,
yeah, the same
that is a
thing.
really interesting topic, actually. So,
It,
Thank you.
it is. I view it as inherently all types of designs in uniform are inspired by others. So to define it as a copy, I mean, I always took it as when someone, the terminology knock you off, like they take your product and create a similar version. I used to come from the mindset like, oh, that's the ultimate compliment that
mm.
we're so great that they want to copy us. But to your point, it can impact the brand if it's really done as a direct copy. But I guess it is. It's a fine line of
Yeah, and
what's truly copied.
I also know when I was a teenager, I worked in a fashion store. And of
Mhm.
course, as you said, they copy a lot. And there was a fashion store that I know sometimes they have to put pieces out of the collection because it was too much the same from their where they're inspired were from. Let's say they saw on the catwalk of Dior a design and they copied too much. And my manager told me that time that there have to be 8 changes, so 8 different things that made it different to be, let's say, not a copy. But when you're talking about uniforms, I don't think you can. I think there are a lot of uniforms that don't have 8 different changes that weren't the same.
So On the general apparel side, my understanding was, right, and my daughter went to Parsons as fashion design, and so we would discuss this at times, and this was talked about a lot. She said at their in their training was, that clothing design isn't copyrightable, right? You cannot like take a design and say we own this design, right? So patterns are always reverse engineered, right? Constantly. What you see on the runway always winds up with 100 derivatives of it, in big box department stores. At least that's, Aileen, how it operates here in the States. So I'm not aware of companies um, uh, getting in trouble with each other like, hey, you stole this t-shirt design or you stole this dress design, you have to remove it from your catalog, right? So it's very interesting to hear you say that that was your experience in Europe, that was a thing. uh but so that's from a legal standpoint. Now, from a branding standpoint, 100% there's issues, right? And no doubt, if you did an all purple uniform as a transportation or cargo carrier, FedEx would be all over you, right? Now, could they say that they own purple? I don't know. I don't know the legal ramifications of that, right? But I mean, Leslie, when programs are designed, does that come up? Like, hey, how aren't we going to look too much like United if we come out with this general Navy, uniform
Right.
and right? And I
It's a
don't mean to pick
huge
on
factor.
United. It's just,
Oh yeah, no, no, totally. It's a huge factor, and from a design perspective, that is taken into account, at least, in the States here, because you might be inspired by the general uniform from another, company, but you take it and make it your own and brand it to the company you're designing it for, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
definitely, like we know, like there's a color brown in the industry that you will never see others use. And it's also, do they own that color? They could justify that they do in a sense. But it's slippery. I don't know. I
You're
don't
talking about
know.
UPS in that case. And it's interesting
Yes,
that the
UPS. I
two,
apologize. Yes,
no, that's
UPS. Like
okay. I wasn't sure, maybe you didn't want to mention the brand, but UPS is fine being associated with the brown. They take pride in
they're
it,
known
right?
for it.
But it is interesting, Aileen, that these two are saying, hey, this is, it's too similar to ours. What are you doing? Right? That's
Well,
uh
what you said about copying uniforms, I think from what I've seen, maybe it doesn't happen in America, but for example, in Belgium, they now have new police. I think my column about this will be up this week or next week. And what happened in Belgium, for example, is that AliExpress, you know AliExpress? Is it
no,
also, you don't know AliExpress?
no, sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that is, let's say, a very big online web shop from China, which is extremely popular in Europe
Oh, it's
because
Alibaba to us.
it's from the
Okay.
same company. AliExpress
Okay.
is from the same company as Alibaba.
Oh, it
And
is. Okay, think okay.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's some other company. So I think that is
Okay.
it's extremely popular here in
Hmm.
Europe.
Yes.
And they copied the design of, I think it was, I'm now thinking, I think it was, yeah, the police uniform that they copied. And that was a big problem because then you have the legal part. And you have the legal part that they designed it, but it's not already worn. But because they are living in a monarchy, it has to be, let's say, officially approved by the queen or the king. So that is also why they couldn't say to AliExpress or Alibaba in this case, they couldn't say you should put it off your website because it's not legally, let's say, a uniform and not say approved. But I know now by reading and a lot about the company, Alibaba is changing the last years in their rules when it comes to PPE and workwear. And they are very strict now. And they're also following American rules more often and Europe rules. So they said, okay, we remove it from the website.
Mm-hmm.
But that is also a copy where I think, yeah, you are not allowed to do so. And that's the same with camouflage prints in the army. There are also some prints, not every print, but there are some prints who you cannot use in other clothes or uniforms. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
very interesting. I think
Is.
and I don't know very much about this. My brain, as you were describing all that, was going to thoughts of, so that is security legal concerns, not copyright legal concerns, right? So, and we have that here in North America as well, Aileen, where they'll say, well, these are the authorized sellers of the uniforms for the Chicago Police Department, right? You're not allowed to make a similar garment and try to sell it to others in the area for security purpose, right? That would be shut down because it would allow people to impersonate an officer too easily, right? And so
yeah.
I think something similar with the military, that, well, if you can copy the camouflage, then you can pretend you're the good guys and hurt us,
Yep.
right? So, but that's very interesting. It all blends, doesn't it? Because that's not necessarily copyright, but it becomes the same effect as your point. It's the similar effect to being copyrighted because we have other ways that we could stop you from selling that garment because, and I suppose you could say the same is true for an airline. They're super security conscious. So if somebody can impersonate an airline employee, that's very dangerous, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, but then you can also have the same discussion about the dark blue and red suits. That is also a uniform that is worn by so many airlines.
Mhm.
And one thing that always made them different is wearing a wing. That's like the sign of that you are allowed to work on
And
an
so,
airplane.
yeah, yeah,
But on the other
interesting.
side, that's also something that you can just easily buy somewhere. I mean,
Hmm.
there are so many web shops. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, especially because if you looked about uniforms in certain areas in the world are very common. And here in the West, you see a lot of dark blue and red suits. So when are you copying someone else? I make videos about, as you all know, about airline uniforms on TikTok and Instagram. And I got a lot of times people are saying, oh, this red suit looks like that red suit.
Yes, sure.
But when it comes to, let's say, Virgin Airlines, they're always like, oh, this is so beautiful. This is different. Yeah, but it's still certain details that makes it different. It still looks a lot like other airlines. So it's interesting because you can say, okay, it looks like someone else, but when is it a copy? Can you say as an
Yeah.
airline, the other airline from this country is really copying our uniform? For example, in Air Cambodia, their skirt is not until the ground, but in Thai
Okay.
Airways, it is until the ground. So that's already a difference.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm going to watch to see in one of your TikTok videos how that resolves it because I did see a week or two or three ago that you had mentioned. I saw your TikTok video that about this one actually. All right, Leslie, what do you got for us?
The first one, I had written an article last December about it, and I know, Rick, you and I have talked about it at great lengths, is rental versus direct sale, right?
Mm,
But I'm actually really wanting to dive into this, I mean, especially to get perspective on global, um, because as an industry in the uniform space, we need to work together to make sure that our clients are getting the best that, whatever it is they need. Do you rent? Do you buy? It's always the age-old question. But from looking into it, it's more that every rental, well, most rental producers and companies will direct sell, but not all direct sale companies will rent. So clearly the common factor there is direct purchase is the growing piece of it, in my opinion. Just, and it doesn't mean rental will go away. Absolutely not. There are industries that will always need to rent. You got food processing, different things like that, certain manufacturing, certain clean room and all that. But I guess my point is really globally, especially in the European market, I'm just curious, do you see the rise of direct, or is it pretty similar to rental?
Is this a question for me?
Yes. Well, you're yes. You're the
Okay.
global.
I was
So,
thinking,
yes.
yeah, from a European point of view, I think it's, for me, I don't know, to be honest. I don't have a clear view about if that is changing. From a sustainable point of view, I think renting is a pretty good thing. That is for sure. But on the other side, you can say sustainability is more important these days. But to the pain in my heart, I've seen in the last weeks some sustainable workwear companies who are bankrupt now in the Netherlands. So I also don't know if that is a really strong thing these days. Yeah, there's one company I also wrote about a couple of times in my columns, which I was a big fan of, and they recycled a lot of uniforms, but no, they're bankrupt now. So, but no, I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I know, and I
But
didn't want to put you on
the
the spot.
sustainability angle is an
But
interesting.
it's just
The sustainability is an interesting new piece to this question that's been coming up with the uniform industry here in North America for decades. And as we have less manufacturing and soil-based activities, meaning jobs that are really rough on textiles because of dirt, chemicals, right? Things that involve soilage. Uh, the need for or the argument for rental is diminished, right? But and if I had to venture a guess, the rental industry would take exception to them being less sustainable or more sustainable. I think your point was that perhaps renting is more sustainable because you use less garments, might be the theory, but that's not necessarily the case. The wastewater for for rental programs would be significantly higher and a lot more chemicals, like 1,000 more chemicals involved in the treatment of washing, at an industrial grade. So you could argue that that is not um, a sustainable issue. You could also argue that transportation, because now we got to have 10,000 trucks driving around, dropping things off and picking them up, whereas the employee is already going home and coming to their place of work already. So that transportation is already baked in. If they can just bring their uniform, then we don't have all of this extra logistics waste, happening. But I've been on the direct sales side for the most of the time. I worked for an industrial laundry out in California for a year and a half, but I was a remote employee doing desk work. I wasn't a route driver. But it is still an interesting question, Leslie. And I think uh well, for obvious reasons, a rental laundry can get into direct sale way easier than a direct sale company can get into laundry. So don't you think that's part of why it
absolutely.
happens that way?
I do. And obviously, I think there's much more competition in a direct purchase program than it would be in a rental program, at least nationally. But I just, wanted to make the comment as the world continues to evolve and what happens. It's just interesting to see, will it ever catch up? I mean, volume wise, it is really, it's one of the questions I've
Volume
always
wise, you're
had.
saying rental is still much higher, right?
From
Yeah,
my
but that's
experience,
yes.
yes.
Wouldn't the expenses be way higher also, though? I mean, arguably.
Correct. Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, for all the reasons you said. And also you have and I don't mean this in a negative way because I came from both worlds, you also have a limit on what you can do with the garment. So that kind of plays into it too, as the generations come up, they want a little bit more uniqueness as well.
Right. And the
From a
variety,
design
that one of
standpoint.
the challenges or a big challenge for the rental companies is maintaining a variety in their program because
Correct.
it's a lot more expensive to offer 6 shirts and then launder them versus this is the one shirt that you wear, right? But
Yep.
yeah,
If I hear
Yeah, that's
this,
just something I wanted to bring up.
I have a question for
yeah.
Leslie, because now you say something interesting. You
Oh,
say what I Ooh. What
all right.
you say the new generation wants something different. What do you see when it comes to new generation, older generations, when it comes to design? Is it really that the new generation wants more different styles?
They actually are much more aware of sustainability, of different things that can be done, of more, and I don't want to give it away, different smart fabrications and things like that that don't lend itself to laundries. So more performance driven, type of aesthetics is where I'm going.
Mhm.
So they have
Casual in a sense too.
so they have more things that they want when it comes to having a uniform.
Well, they love choice, but I also think it's just a different generation that understands what clothing can do and where it comes from, how everything about it. So it does lend itself to as they get older, because I'm even thinking when I was younger, I didn't think much about what my, different fabrications are. I just bought what I liked. But I don't
Hmm.
know. I just think that they're more aware than the generation prior.
And I think they
And I think
should.
social media too helps.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes more acute if the fabrics affect their job, right? So if they're aware that the textiles and workwear are one of the tools, that serve them in their work, then the next generation is a lot more aware of the technical, which is a perfect segue for my first topic, which I just wrote about this week. It was titled The Silver Wave in Blue. So what's happening here in the US is we have, and this is true for lots of industries because of the baby boom generation, and there's this huge bubble that's moving into the retirement age brackets, right? And so we have this enormous problem issue when we think in terms of public safety. So when you think in terms of the federal, the state, and local first responders, public safety people, this is going to be an enormous shift. The estimates are that federal law enforcement could lose a full third of its agents by the end of the decade. State agencies report up to 25% retirement eligibility in the coming years, and then local departments are seeing it too. So, what's interesting to me is there's this huge squeeze in our industry because
Yeah.
we have this aging workforce that we need to dress, right? And they want it a certain way. And Leslie's mentioning, yeah, but when then you've got all these young people, so new recruits are going to expect, what do you mean? I'm not going to wear a wool shirt. And this
Yeah.
polyester that we've been wearing, it stretches 0 ways. I need this to stretch,
Stretch. Yeah.
4 of them. So 4 ways. And so there's this whole changing style into to not only do we have to accommodate the grading of all these sizes, but we have to accommodate the generational shifts in how we outfit people. And with this, and then the other problem with aging out, then it's going to shift the other direction, that we're going to have so many young people. Is that going to have a massive effect on the you know, uniform industry? And then a micro market forming of the retiree reserve uniforms. Agencies exploring if they bring back retirees for, special purposes, how are they going to outfit them, and how are,
Yeah, I see
so
that.
there's another thing happening. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that we're going to be dealing with this in the public safety space, the aging workforce, and then as so many retire, how will the uniform industry be affected by that?
I also think that when you're talking about a new generation, there wouldn't be so much people as the older generation. For
Hmm.
example, because people are not getting so much children these days, and I understand that it's the same problem in America.
Hmm.
And that is really, yeah, and I also hear it a lot here in the Netherlands, that people are getting less and less children. Also my fault.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I don't have children with 2 legs. I only have them with 4 legs. So, but yeah, I think that is also the case. But on the other side, I also think that there are less and less people born, but on the other side, there is more development when it comes to things like AI and technology. So that will also replace some yeah, functions when it comes to jobs. So maybe that's also going to shift. That people are more working in, let's say, fields that are on the street,
Mm.
or let's say we're working with our hands, or public safety and these kind of things. So because a lot of jobs going to be replaced by technology.
Mm.
So, but maybe this is not the answer of your question. But yeah, this is just my thoughts about the shifting of the generations.
That
Mm.
is that is a good outlook on a different take on it, which is
Mm.
important. But my thing too, Rick, is that as the people retire and the impact on uniforms and newer people come in the shift, one of the main things too is, are people going into this line of work too, which then impacts everything, even the manufacturers of the product and stuff. But
It's
So
also,
the aging going into the line of work of our industry?
meaning younger people, younger generations, I don't believe are all signing up to get into these industries. The safety, I mean the public safety industry. I could be wrong.
To be law enforcement
Yes.
professionals is a
Yeah,
big
definitely.
problem. Yes, that
Yes.
is a big
So, and I'm
problem.
thinking that impacts you. I'm not saying you would choose to go into that line of business because you think the uniform's cool, but it's interesting. Maybe, they need to take a harder look on like what are we having the people wear as well? Not that that would make you
Well,
join, but
market segment growth is, of
yeah,
course, what are the bigger companies in our industry look at. Where
yeah,
are the next
where,
10 million
yes,
employees going to be that might be wearing uniforms? And law
right.
enforcement has, that kind of stays steady. It's not like a police
It,
department says, you know what, let's hire another 1,000 people. It's like, that's a huge deal for them to hire even a handful more. There's a big wheel that has to turn to make all of that happen. So,
yeah, but it's
Aileen, you
also,
looked like you were ready to say something.
yeah, that's true. I have a lot of thoughts now. Well, one of them is that yeah, a lot of things in my
it just
head
comes,
now.
it comes.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that when it talks to law enforcement, I think that we have the European UN top here in the Netherlands, where Trump was also here, and we talked about that last time. And they put up the budget for the Defense Department worldwide. And what I see now is that I think when you say as a police department, we want more police officers, it's also, let's say, a branding problem that maybe they have like certain let's say people look to police officers and they have a certain oh my God, the English word for that. The way that people
Per-
think of them.
Perception.
Perception?
Perception, yeah,
Yes.
about the job, about the kind of people that
Yes.
they
Yes.
have that job, and the type
Yes.
of colleagues that they have. And
Yep.
we also have the same here, I know in the Netherlands. We have the same in Belgium. In Belgium, it's even so bad that the people who are harming the police are not getting arrested that easily and not
Mm,
getting in jail for that. And that's also why a lot of people don't want to be a police officer,
mm,
because you don't have a good protection. And I know here in the Netherlands now they put up the budget. They already put up the budget for the defense department now, but even more because they need so many people. But when you're talking about, do people want to have jobs in an industry where you need to wear uniforms or workwear? I recently wrote an article, read an article about the fact that in Asia, this is changing. The Asian culture, young people always said, I don't want to work with my hands. I don't want to have technical jobs. And, let me just be in the office. But that is now changing. And the worker companies are also seeing this, and that there are more and more demand of workwear. So that I also wanted to write about it, but I couldn't find enough information for, let's say, a good article.
mm.
But it's interesting that the workwear companies see there that yeah, they can sell more workwear. So there's a cultural shift there.
Mm.
Which I guess would lead to that there's always going to be shifts through time, like there was a time when it was an elite, like, wow, I'm so proud you're going to go into this, da 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 da, law enforcement, military, whatnot. But, times might have changed slightly, but I really feel that they'll get back to, it's just it's an evolution of people's thought process on what it is. But I think branding does play into it, which then could lead to uniforms.
And also, don't forget the fact that what I said about technology and AI, that a lot of jobs are going to be replaced. And people nowadays are more and more tired of just only looking at a computer, and that is just your job. And they miss, let's say, being in touch with people, have a
Mhm.
meaningful job, have the feeling that you help someone or you help your community. So I think that there will be two things. On one side, technology will replace jobs, and on the other side, there will be a lot more, let's say, jobs with people with really making things, construction work. I think that people would like this more because we have so much technology around us. We are also, at the end of the day, people. Well, not me. I am still going to write behind the desk. I'm not want to see a lot of people, but in general, in general.
All right.
That makes sense.
I'm going to have that lead to my second one of the day, actually, which was
Ooh.
an article called Drones, Body Cams, and Smart Threads. Okay. Since we're talking about so much
Okay.
technology, so I wrote about the idea that a couple of different things, and it affects the uniform industry. But the first point is more towards what the two of you were talking about, where the technology of a drone is going to be replacing certain jobs, right? So we could actually, do we need somebody walking those streets in certain, beat patterns, right? The police beat, right? If we've got drones and cameras stationed and there's someone sitting at a desk that's just monitoring, right? And watching to see what's happening, right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
and I'm not arguing the benefit or the negative aspects of all of that. I just in the article talk about, hey, these things are all coming, right? This is all going to be happening. And so drone as first responder is a thing. And even from a medical, like if there's a car crash and the drone can get there first and identify what's happening, right? That's actually pretty useful for first responders to know, oh, when we
What they're
get there
going
in
into.
5 minutes, right? This is what we're about to see. So we can get this kit ready or have this, thing ready. So that's one thing. And then when it comes to
Cool.
clothing, though, there's going to be so much more tech that needs to be part of the clothing. It might be the clothing itself, right? It'll be smart threads, but it's also going to be like these drones won't just be controlled from, the police station, if you will, right? And I'm keeping it in public safety, but there's lots of industries that this tech will affect, right? But if you also think about, well, I'm going to need controllers for various things, right? It was a big shift when we had microphones that we needed attached to shirts, right? It was a big thing when we needed to start to have cell phones conveniently, placed in different places, right? And we've been shifting around where a public safety professional wears their gear, right? We don't want it around the waist anymore, right? We want it all over, right? We want to move it around so it's most conveniently located. So that's all going to start shifting too as the types of technology required are shifting as well. So now I've got to operate my drone. It's like, how fast can I get my little, device out, right? Or am I controlling it from my glasses? It's like, who knows? I don't know, right? Uh, and then, of course, the threads, right? So health, sensors, right? I can know when a police officer is in distress because the fabric is telling me that that officer is in distress, right? Okay, I'll stop there. Leslie, you look like you're chomping at the bit to react.
I am, because this is what I was going to talk about, smart fabrics.
Oh,
And
excellent.
sort of based
Okay.
on I know, right? So in it, the whole AI is just amazing and yet scary, because I still get scared. But like they're even saying garments could eventually, I don't know how, maybe this is so futuristic, will learn and adapt to the wearer
Mm,
on, obviously, sort of like you said, on the biometric standpoint of like, oh, your heart rate, are you okay? Are you hot, cold, or whatnot? But it also said it could be voice activated, sort of like what you were referring to,
like
that
Iron Man, like it just changes to
kind
Kevlar,
of,
like
right? I, yes, but in a softer
right.
cloth, because I think wearing the Iron Man suit would be just too heavy.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me on all the different responsive fabrics, thermal regulating, which we're all, well versed in. They've been in the marketplace for a while now, but even they are evolving and things like that. So I love this topic. It's interesting to see where it will go and how help people, because to your point, if you have clothing that can send out notification that the officer is in trouble or down or whatnot, then people know where to go, which can
Mhm.
also invade your privacy too. So there's sides to both like two sides to it.
And a bad actor could hack the system, right? So of
Uh,
course
yeah,
there's
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 yeah
there's issues to
concerns.
to tackle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also recently made a column about Ukraine and the fact that they
Yes, you
also
did.
use drones. And what is interesting is that there was one of the highest chiefs in the army of Ukraine who made a suit that was specially made for attacks from drones. But he also said, I didn't mention it in the column, is that drones are now a part of war and
Yeah.
of course, our society in general, but especially in war. But he said, don't forget that this is a part of it, but it will never change the function of a soldier.
Mm,
Because he said there's one downside of drones is that as soon as there's going to be leaves on the trees, it will be much harder to see people
mm,
for a drone. And especially
Good
when it
point.
I mean, if you want to help with a drone, for if someone is, let's say, you want to help your own team, you're in your army, and someone is shot, you can send a drone and drop the medical stuff. But when it's the opposite, the one who you're fighting to, you can tackle them, and they cannot be that low to you, because then you destroy it. So, and still, someone has to be make sure that the drone is going the good direction and making choices. But it's also very dangerous, because it's famous that when you are using technology like drones, and when you shot someone, you're not there as someone. You just kill someone. So it's also, are we really gonna use this that much as we think? Okay, now I said a lot of
Yeah,
things.
no, that's okay. Those are big questions, right?
Those are
Those are
really
big questions,
philosophical
right?
too.
Yeah. Yeah, they are, and it's all, the whole AI thing is gonna, that's hugely helpful, right? Amount of ways that it's going to be helpful, and then, huge amount of ways that many fear that we will ruin ourselves, it'll be the apocalypse if we don't protect ourselves, right? And have a governor, and then, can we even have a governor? So this is a huge topic from the standpoint of apparel and protective gear, though. I think interestingly, our industry will have a role to play. Like, how will we
I agree.
assist with protecting and or using the technology to assist humans, right? I mean, yes, we could argue the idea that the drone, is inhuman because it's not a human sticking the knife into another human, right? This is not, right?
Well, that's a
This is
little
not
graphic.
the war. Yeah, it was a little graphic, sorry, but it's not your grandfather's war, right? It's,
Correct. Yep.
this is the next generation, and that's forever going to change how we hurt each other. But I think it's also interesting because it's going to change how we protect each other. What are the
Exactly, too.
mechanisms yeah, go ahead, Leslie. Sorry.
No, 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 I didn't want to cut you off. I like the protect each other versus hurt each other, but with anything good, your point is valid. It could turn bad. But just, the technology is just taken off
Mm.
from even 5 years ago or 1 year ago. And I know that's how it goes, but it's mind blowing what some of these things can do, and they can put into clothing. It'll be expensive, so I don't think our industry, like meaning the main industry, not the safety, public safety is different. I don't think, people are, companies are going to shell out a lot of money just so that they can,
I think
track
this is going to
and
be an example.
yeah,
I think that's a really good point. I think this
yeah,
is going to be an
yeah,
example, and we have many examples of this in the uniform and workwear space where governments are the first to deploy. So, and of course, that will be
correct.
because of the Department of Defense in the US says, here's $1 billion. Now figure out how AI is going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
protect our warfighter, right? So, and then that will trickle down. That will go from the runway to the big box,
From the
clothing
runway.
store where
Big,
then, okay,
yeah.
well, now that technology, now that we understand it, and there's been a certain amount of development in that space, we can now bring that to the textiles that we all are going to use in a more common environment. And then um, are there ways we certainly have seen this in footwear, right? There's ways that they can make footwear now that you could drop that big anvil on your foot and not break your foot, right? So,
Amazing,
will
yes.
will there
And
be
still
similar
lightweight.
things that it knows, like, hey, I'm sensing something bad's about to happen. I'm going to change, like you were saying, Leslie. I'm going to suddenly, put up barrier protection, right? There's a gas, there's an odor, there's something happening. And so suddenly now in the
That's what I
hospital,
mean.
right? I'm going to now activate, barrier mode, and, I don't know. It's interesting.
That sounded kind of cool. Like you can talk to your clothes and it'll act out. Who knows?
Oh, well, talking to your clothes is also that seems like an obvious one, doesn't it? Right?
It does.
It does, because there's and it'll just
Mhm.
record. So I don't have to worry about devices. The device is baked into my vest, right? I'm just going to talk to it. It already connects to the cloud. It stores it. and I'm good to go.
Just interesting. The robot
Yeah.
age. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It
Okay.
is the
Well,
robot age. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there.
well, I have a topic. Am I already
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess we're now, because
already
Leslie and I
that is
combined ours. So now,
also
We did. We combined. Who knew?
yeah.
Great minds.
because it's also hitting the topic of let's say government and money.
Okay.
Because I've seen something, and I'm very proud of it that it comes from my own country.
Okay.
Netherlands. Yeah.
Props.
So in the Netherlands, there was news, and I'm not happy that, let's say, almost nobody picked it up from the normal news channels. But there's now the second hospital in the Netherlands who are switching to washable medical gowns.
Hmm.
So, and this,
Okay.
I think it's very interesting because in the Netherlands, as of course, during the pandemic, we all had our own government and all strategic ways of, yeah, dealing with the pandemic. But we had, let's say, our government had a team of specialists who were advising them about the pandemic. And one of the people was a man who was a head of a universal medical hospital. And he saw during the pandemic that there was so much medical waste that he said, we need to change this.
Mhm.
So what he did is that he
Valid.
made an organization who was giving advice to hospitals how you can make your hospital more sustainable.
Hmm.
With yeah. So, and one of the things that they advise was a washable medical gowns. And they did some research, and I think it's very interesting because you use 41% less water and you have 99% less waste. 82% on it low. In English, you say different, 28% less energy if you use the washable medical gowns. But there's also, of course, a downside, and that is always money, because it will cost you two, and I now talk about euros because I'm from Europe, and that's when I
No,
did
that's
the
fine.
research.
Yep.
A reusable gown costs you 2.16 euros per use, and that's including the rental and the laundry part. Where if you have a disposable version, it will cost you less. It's 1.38 euros per use. But yeah, of course, it's a lot of times it's when it comes to sustainability, it costs more money. But now there are two hospitals in the Netherlands who said, okay, we're still going to use this because sustainability is also a big priority. So I was thinking, yes, we live in an age where money is important, but also sustainability. And if you say as a government or as a hospital independently, okay, sustainability is so important for us that we want to spend more money.
Mhm.
Oh,
Sorry.
your cat. I love.
Oh, just let the cat be in the video.
Yeah,
I know.
she
We like
wants
the
to be
cat.
here all the time when I'm sitting on my desk. Yeah, but what I was saying is that it's interesting because if this is going to change, let's say worldwide, because you see worldwide more changes when it comes to PPE in hospitals. You also have in Scotland the head caps that now you can also wash them.
Mhm.
You don't have to throw them away. So yeah, it's interesting to see because in the beginning it was more like, oh, it costs you more money, but now sustainability is so important that we are more and more willing to pay a little bit more for less, let's say, less waste.
So I have a clarification question. This
Yeah.
was comparing um, reusable gowns with disposable gowns, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Uh, that is interesting that they're opting then for the laundered, even though it's going to cost them more, and that they're going to have to meet specifications. Part of the benefit of the disposable has always been that we can get rid of the bacteria. We can get rid of the bad stuff by
Right
simply
away.
never introducing it into the operating room again. Whereas
Yeah,
now you're saying they've got, to bring the gown, they're going to wash it and then bring it back into the operating room, right?
yeah, you
So,
can wash it up to 100 times.
yeah,
And after 100 times, the coating, which would, as you said, will protect from a bacteria, that
yeah.
will that will be gone.
Mhm.
100 is a lot. In the
So
US,
it lasts 100 times is a
we
lot.
Yeah.
earmark 50. We benchmark things
Yeah.
at 50 washings here in the US, that you
Oh,
have to have at least up to 50 washings. And I'm not even sure if the OR has even more strict, right, things. And then what's interesting, Aileen, about all of that also is that in our large healthcare setups here in the US, we will wash or dispose of OR operating room gowns and textiles, okay? But the average the hallway staff, right, the nurses and doctors who are simply walking around, they will purchase and launder their own items. So nurses often will supply their own, right? It depends on the system, but a lot will. That's why we end up with these scrub stores. We have a few thousand scrub stores around the US, right? And that's because a lot of healthcare professionals are told to just go buy their own
Yeah.
scrubs. But it depends on the
oh,
hospital. I'm not saying this is
okay.
true for everything, but they're a very interesting example, and you both ended up talking about rental versus purchase
I
versus disposable,
know.
right? So that is very
We're thinking
interesting.
alike, all of us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, there's only so many topics in our industry, but the that is very interesting, and I agree with you that there has to be a reason to spend the extra money, and it's great that in Europe sustainability has become a priority. We're still
Important.
a decade behind you,
Oh, easily.
unfortunately
Now,
here.
I don't know, it could be more now.
Yeah.
Is this something that is, let's say, not possible in this time for America, you think? That
We
hospitals just
do
say,
that. In the rental industry does do hospital gowns for certain, you know what I mean? There are they do launder them. I don't know the specifics, but I also know they use a lot of disposables too.
Mhm.
So it really depends
yeah,
on the hospital.
that was also the reason why this man set up this organization to give advice to hospitals to reduce
Mhm.
your waste and be more sustainable, because he was, yeah, seeing this problem. But I'm, yeah, very curious, Rick. You said, well, we're not, yeah, in
We're a
Europe, we're
decade behind,
far.
is the way I've been phrasing
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
why do you think?
The White House. I mean,
I was gonna say it. Mhm.
I mean,
Not a
certainly the
priority.
current administration is dismantling many parts of the Environmental Protection Agency
Yeah,
and other
yeah,
agencies that might have worked with states to encourage. That's not to
yeah,
say that the states, Aileen, are not in certain cases being proactive and trying to move things forward. We've had EV, legislation. We have textile waste legislation in multiple
We
states
do.
now,
Yep,
right?
we do.
Where you're not allowed as a commercial entity. They're not going after the average consumer that throws away their old t-shirt, right? But they are going after, people that are throwing textiles away in bulk, and saying you're not allowed to do that anymore. But out of our 50 states, you've got maybe three that are being progressive about
Following
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to take time.
mm,
We're a little more behind, in part, we just have more people than the typical European country, so it's harder to get a consensus going. We're more disparate, our north versus south, our east versus west, our conservatives versus liberal, right? We just have a lot of of polar, right? I wish we had more
That,
parties. That's part of the problem here, is that in Europe you
yeah.
get
yeah,
more parties, so they have to build coalitions, right? They have to come together as groups. We don't have that here. We get two sides, and we are literally 50-50 in this country lately. for the
Well,
past.
you're welcome in the Netherlands. We always like
Oh, thank
more
you.
workwear
Thank you.
nerds here. Yeah, we have that system here. That is true.
Yeah.
On the other side, people are talking so long with each other here to find out what they will decide because
Yeah.
there are so many parties. So that is the other side. But it's also funny to mention that when I talk to people and I tell that I have a podcast here and that I am writing my columns, they always say, "Oh, that must be so interesting to talk about Americans, about workwear, because I think they're so much, more developed than we are here." And I'm like, well,
Hmm.
they think the same about us.
Hmm.
Yeah, we do. Valid
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that is interesting. But yeah, I think that the political climate is also a very big part. Now I understand
Of
more
decision.
for your side when it comes to workwear and sustainability. Because
Yes.
obviously, when you don't have much money, yeah, that is also a big thing. And also our, let's say, our government is also, I think I wrote a column about that, that the government started a topic, and what do you say, a project where they recycled army uniforms into
Yeah.
um, towels.
Towels.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and
Towels,
Yeah.
or they could do it for stuffing and
yeah,
In
and they
couches.
gave it,
cars. Yeah.
let's say, the people who are working for the NATO
Yeah.
convention here. So, and that is really funny because we also have a more conservative, the most conservative political climate here now, but it's still giving money to these kind of projects. So,
Yeah.
All right,
It,
we're
it,
coming. We're coming. Here we
yeah,
come.
we might. I mean, it's not that it's not happening here.
It
It's
is.
that who's going to drive it. So the current conservative politics says we want the states to each develop their own strategies on any number of topics, right? That's the nice view, right? We have all of this negative name calling happening in our politics, but at the base level, what they're saying is, hey, we don't want the federal government having the heavy hand with all of this. We want states to do all of this. That's the kind explanation of what's happening here.
but you said there are
So
only 3 states who are really aware of sustainability
no, I
and,
wouldn't say aware. That's not the right word. That are being proactive in
oh yeah.
legislation, right? So uh, anyway, that was really interesting set of
It
topics.
was.
I loved how it overlapped. Things overlapped this time, right?
They
Yeah,
really did. When you
yeah,
were talking, I was like, oh, I did that one. I did that one. I did
right.
that one.
Yeah, and when Leslie brought up the laundry, you could have said, Eileen, hey, I'm going to add mine into this on top of it because it talks about, right? But Leslie was approaching it from the direct sale versus laundry, and
Yeah.
you
Yes.
were approaching it from the disposable versus laundry, where the obvious sustainable, elements are, massively,
Well,
Oh,
just wanted to wait for my turn. But
right.
sometimes I will just
oh, you're good.
I just
Oh,
throw it. Yeah. Yeah, it's always nice. But I think that this is the natural thing that happens when you put 3 workwear nerds together.
There
I
you
think.
go.
that's
All right.
right.
Well, pleasure speaking again with you, ladies.
Pleasure, pleasure, and looking
Wanna
forward to
end
the next one.
the say end word for the podcast?
What
Yeah.
are the end words? It was great to see you all. You can read all the articles, many of them that we've mentioned at naumd.com/news. You can read more about Aileen's work at prettybusiness.com is the English version,
Prettybusinessworld.com for the English.
prettybusinessworld.com, right?
Yeah.
And Leslie's work is posted weekly at naumd.com/news. And I thank you all.